minutes. We want to answer your questions about business, life, and everything in between. If you have a question for us, send it to ask@beckandliz.com. That's ask@beckandliz.com. Whew. So, so Elizabeth, the question I have for us today is a lesson that we have learned from a woman in our life. Do you have a particular lesson you've learned from someone in your life, an author, a friend, a mentor, whatever?
I do. And I have several women that I could mention, but I'm going to talk about this one, and it's a little heavy. But it was such a good lesson for me and for some of my children. Jake, who's 22, when he was in the 7th or 8th grade, his best friend was William, and William's dad got diagnosed with colon cancer. And when they found it, it was very far along. So they gave him 6 months to live. I think he lived to about 18. And watching them go through that was really remarkable to me. They handled it. He lived every ounce of life he could live. While he was feeling well, they traveled. I think they did an Alaskan cruise. They visited family. They did all of the things that they could fit in for the end of his life, knowing that that was coming, and lived hard. You know, they just squeezed it, every little bit out of it. And the day that he died, I'll never forget it. It was, I think it might've been Easter or right around there. She put something on Facebook, and we had all known it was coming. And I went and told Jake, and you know, he's an awkward middle schooler at that time. And he's like, what do I do? And I said, you call William and you say, do you need me?
Yeah.
And you see what he says. And so he did. William said yes. So I took Jake over there, and, you know, they got through all that, and they had a genetic thing. There's a syndrome, which I can't remember the name of it, but if you have this syndrome, you will get colon cancer. It is a guarantee. Wow. So they had both boys tested for the gene. William had an older brother who was in high school. They both have the gene. The average life expectancy, if you don't find out about the gene, is 42. And the dad was in his mid-40s. If you find out about it, you can prolong your life by, you know, screenings and monitoring. And so the next year, William had a big tumor removed from his abdomen. He's had several little things that they've had to keep an eye on. And his mom told me one time, I will probably bury both of my children.
Wow. And
she remarried very, very quickly after that. And at first I thought, wow, that was kind of quick. And then I thought, she married a man from she's in Pensacola, and I'm in Spanish Fort, which is about an hour away from here. And so they would come by every now and then, and he's a pastor or in that realm. I don't know that he doesn't have a church, but that was his vocation. And he is the nicest man you would ever meet. Aww. And I thought, she is continuing to squeeze life, every ounce of her life, out of her life. And how lucky is she that she has someone to go through these things with her. And the boys seem to do well, seem to be pretty positive. They can't have children because the likelihood of the gene being passed is high. Yeah. In each generation, the disease gets more severe. So watching them and the grace that she has had and the faith that she has had, wow. If anybody can walk through life with a smile on their face, and I don't talk to her very much, we're not that close. We're friendly, but we don't run in the same circles. But I watch her on Facebook, and she's happy. She's posting these things, and I don't believe it's just Facebook happiness. I believe that she has learned to squeeze the joy out of a life that's got to be very, very, very challenging for anyone. And she's held on to her faith, and she's held on to her joy, and she's found happiness with another wonderful man who can be with her as she has to navigate whatever comes next. So to me, anytime I feel like something is too much, or I'm overwhelmed with whatever stress, emotion, I think of her a lot, because if I could do life with half the grace that she has, I think I will have been successful at it.
grace and courage and embracing whatever is being thrown at her. Because even with her husband who was dying, she embraced that moment. She lived in the present 100% to the fullness with her husband and with her children. And then as life changed, there was a transition. She's now embracing fully what she has, knowing she's buried her husband and likely will bury both of her children. Wow, what a wonderful lesson you learned.
It's a good one. I lean on it frequently. You know, and she probably
Yeah.
has no idea I think of her that much.
No.
But I just think that she's been inspiring. And to have faith when you know all of these things are probable. And I mean, she's still got things she's got to deal with. And the worry of having to constantly monitor and make sure that your children are okay as, you know, as long as they can be. So
faith is so powerful, isn't it? It can get us through so many horrible things. And it clearly she's mastered this idea.
She really has. So tell me about who you have learned a lesson from.
So I have had a woman in my life. Her name was Yvonne. And Yvonne was this feisty, mouthy, creative woman that was like a second mother to me. And she lived here in San Diego. And anytime I would go on a trip, she would beg to go with me. And she just had this just effervescence about her. She was just lighthearted and playful and creative and endlessly curious. She always wanted to be learning things. In fact, when I would take her places, people would say, "How old are you?" Because she looked so young and her attitude was so young. And she would frequently say, you know, the reason she was so full of youthfulness was because of her endless curiosity. But the biggest lesson I learned from her was she married a guy that I thought was a turkey. Her first husband,
probably putting it nicely, right?
Yeah, he was a turd, really.
Turd.
But nonetheless, he was not nice. And she had a home in Las Vegas and a home here in San Diego, and they would split their time. And they happened to be in Vegas, and I went to visit them in Vegas, and the husband was driving in downtown Las Vegas. And he ended up making a turn and going up a down street, a one-way street, and he's going the wrong way. And this traffic is like crazy coming toward him. And I'm thinking, I'm in the back seat, right? And I'm thinking, I'm going to die. We're going to die right here with all this traffic. You know what traffic's like in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a scary place to drive.
Scared. And Yvonne, my friend, she's just calm and cool and collected, sitting in the front. She doesn't say a peep. Her husband, on the other hand, is swearing and yelling and going on about how stupid these engineers are in Las Vegas and the way they designed these roads.
Dare they design the road that way?
The signing
want to go the other way?
Exactly. You know, the signs are stupid, people are stupid, society is stupid, but mostly those engineers are ridiculous. They shouldn't have done it this way. He's carrying on like a maniac, and every part of me is going, he's going to kill us. He's so mad that is he even paying attention to? He could do a U-turn here, or he could do a right. He needs to get off the road.
Right. Turn somewhere.
Whatever it takes.
Like going in the right direction.
Exactly. So anyway, suffice it to say, I survived, they survived, all was good. And then later I had this conversation with Yvonne, and I said, Yvonne, didn't that rattle you? And shouldn't you have said something
to
your husband? And she only said one thing to me. She says, I've learned to pick my fights. In her mind, he had already made the error. Correcting him or critiquing him at this point was of no value. It was futile. So she had to know that she could trust him to correct his own mistake. And I thought that took a lot of faith, in her husband, which was another lesson all by itself. But it also took knowing when to speak up and when to give feedback and when to say, okay, a mistake has been made. It's not going to help with me putting my 2 cents in. To pick our battles in life. Is this good use of time? Is this good use of my words, my energy? And she had a way of calculating that and almost everything with this, what I call a turkey of a husband. But valuable lesson for me, Elizabeth. It was just a valuable lesson.
And I think it's one we can all learn from. I mean, sometimes things are frustrating. And as I have said before, that's my worst feeling. I hate to be frustrated.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody loves it, but I have a particular aversion. And so I think sometimes when you're frustrated or worried, like you were scared, you're lashing out for the sake of lashing out because there's not anything that it's going to solve.
Exactly.
If your 2-year-old's about to run into the street and you scream, stop,
different story
before it happens.
Yeah.
But if they've already gone into the street and gotten hit, you're not going to fuss at them at that point. I mean, what's done is done.
No.
Terrible example.
That's a terrible example. That's terrible.
But I think it's a great lesson. And is this valuable to our relationship and to my own mental health and to his mental health and to your
learn.
Can you imagine if they had started going at it in the car? I mean, that might have made it worse.
It would have made it worse. She knew this was not a situation for her to speak up. Now, she was at that time 76 and I was probably 41 or something like that. So this age and this wisdom that came, having spent many years married, she just knew this was not the time to say anything.
Yeah.
The problem would resolve itself. Do not pick a fight right now.
Probably that's why she was still married to him.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Oh my gosh, we're so good at solving problems.
I know.
For now, guys, thank you for joining us today, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.